Hello everyone, I am Bob and this is the Home Bitcoin Immersion Mining channel. In this build series episode, we're going to cover how to set up and start an Antminer S19 Bitcoin miner. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so as I covered in past episodes, my immersion system is designed, built, and ready to go. So the focus of this episode is to get my S19 miners up and running, prep them for immersion, and start mining. Now, even if you are not using immersion cooling and are instead using air cooling, the initial setup steps are going to be the same. So the first part of this video should work for anyone with an S19 miner. And so the first step to getting my S19s up and running is to get them out of the box and inspect them to make sure they are ready to start. Now, I'm not going to do a silly unboxing video for my S19J Pros. I bought them new, they came in a cardboard box packed in foam. There's really nothing special going on there. Instead, I'm going to go right into inspecting the hardware. The goal here is to open the miner up and check that nothing drastic has happened to the miner internal hardware. It is recommended and something you really should do before hooking your miner up to power. Okay, so here's my S19, and the first step in taking the miner apart for inspection is to remove the control board cover. On the back of the miner, loosen the screw securing the cover. You don't need to remove this screw, you just need to loosen it by a few turns. Next, press the metal button on the back cover while pulling up. This should release it from the miner housing. Pull the cover off and set it aside. Next, remove the 4 screws attaching the back plate assembly to the miner housing. It's best to start at the bottom, and these bottom 2 screws are a little tricky to reach around the fans. It's really helpful to have the miner extend off the end of a table or ledge to get access here. The top 2 screws are next, and for these screws and the rest of the screws we're removing, you want to make sure you keep track and don't lose anything. With the 4 screws off, rotate the back assembly out of the way. Next, remove the 6 screws attaching the power bus plates to the hash boards. Again, don't lose these screws. They are essential to delivering power from the power supply unit to the hash boards. Next, detach the 3 connectors connecting the control board cables to each of the hash boards. And once this is done, the 3 hash boards are now completely disconnected from the miner and ready to be removed and inspected. But before removing any of the hash boards, you'll want to take a picture of the back of the miner or mark which grooves the hash boards are sitting in. If you miss this step, it might take you a few tries to get everything back together correctly. Next, pull out and inspect each hash board one by one. Now I have 2 different versions of S19J Pros. In one version, there are 2 large heat sinks on both sides of the hash board. And on the other version, one side has discrete heat sinks for each ASIC chips, and the other side has 2 large heat sinks as well. In either case, you're looking for big, obvious problems like a heat sink or other component that is loose, damaged, or has fallen off. If you do find something wrong, return your miner or get it fixed before turning it on. After each board has been inspected, put them back into place and just reverse the previous steps. Reconnect the hashboard cables, reattach the power bus screws, rotate the backplate assembly back into place, and use the 4 small screws to attach the backplate assembly onto the miner housing. One last check to make is a quick look at the control board power cable connection to the PSU located under the PSU cover. The connector should be fully seated and not loose. The final reassembly step is to reattach the hashboard cover. Once this is done, the miner is ready to run. But before you start up your miner, there are a few things to do. First, grab a set of earplugs. You're going to be working around your miner for a while, and that fan noise is really loud and really annoying. Second, go and pick your mining pool and go through whatever registration and setup steps you need to do on your pool's website. I covered picking your pool in the last episode if you want more information on how mining pools work. For my setup, I chose to start off my Home Bitcoin Immersion Mining experience using the Brains mining pool. Now, Brains used to be called Slush Pool, and Slush Pool is one of the original Bitcoin mining pools. They have a very unique scoring mechanism for handling pool shares, which I kind of liked, and they are also the developers of Stratum v1 and Stratum v2, which is the protocol underlying most all Bitcoin mining pools. They are a smaller mining pool, which helps with the decentralization of Bitcoin mining, and they offer a discount when you use their firmware, which will allow me to overclock my miners. Now, I'm not going to use their firmware or go into overclocking right away. I'm going to start with the stock Antminer firmware to show you how that works. I'll be upgrading to Brains firmware and get into overclocking in future episodes. The final step to take before starting the miners for the first time is to download a couple pieces of software from the Antminer website. You'll need to download the IP Reporter software, which is used to find the IP address of the miner, and you'll also need to download the latest firmware version for your miner. And this is needed because miners can often be stored for long times by the miner manufacturer or by distributors. And so more often than not, the stock firmware on your miner will be out of date out of the box. Both pieces of software can be found on the Bitmain website. Load the website, select Customer Support, and go to Firmware Download. For the IP Reporter software, select Others for the hashing algorithm, and select IP Reporter for the software. Download, unzip, and save the application to a folder of your choice. For the firmware, select the SHA-256 hashing algorithm and select your miner hardware. Download the firmware file to a folder of your choice, and we'll be using both of these downloads a little later. With all that prep work done, the next step is to connect the miners to Ethernet and power and get them running. Now, miners will need a direct cable connection to an Ethernet port. For my setup, I'm using a Wi-Fi extender attached to the wall right above my mining tank. This extender has 4 Ethernet connection ports, which is more than enough for my setup. I've got a link below if you're interested in using something similar for your setup. Now, I covered my power and control system in a past episode, which will provide the two 240 power cables for each of my miners. Now, with Antminer miners, there isn't a power on and off button. As soon as you hook up the cables and provide power, the miners will start running. It'll go through its startup sequence, spooling the fans up and down, and then it'll settle into a low power standby mode, pulling a little over 1 amp of current. You will also see a red fault light on. This is normal. The fault light is on because you haven't logged in yet and the miner isn't connected to a mining pool. Next, run the Antminer IP Reporter software that was downloaded earlier. You'll need to right-click and run this as an administrator to make this work correctly. After it is up and running, click the Start button, which will make the software start searching for your miner on the network. Next, walk over to your miner and press and hold the IP Report button for about 5 seconds. Once you release that button, your miner will send out its IP information to be found by the IP Reporter software. And after a little while, the software should find your miner. You'll see an IP address and a MAC address for your miner. Copy that IP address into a web browser to connect to your miner. When asked for a username and password, enter root for both. This will get you logged into the miner dashboard page. And the first thing you want to do here is to change your password so no one else can log in and change your miner setup. Click on System and Password, enter the old and new passwords, and hit Save. And a quick side note, if you ever forget your password, you can always press the reset button on the back of your miner. This will delete all setup information and return the password to the default root. The next step is to change the miner IP configurations, and this is totally optional. Hit IP setting to go to the IP configuration settings window. By default, the miner is set up for DCHP. So if you want to change to a static IP address, here's your chance. And you can also change your miner name here if you want. Next up is updating the miner firmware. Click System and then Firmware Upgrade. Find the firmware file you downloaded earlier and hit Update to start the update process. Now this will take a couple minutes and the miner will automatically restart as part of the firmware update. During this time, you do not want to unplug or mess with your miner. If the firmware gets corrupted, you could mess up your miner so that it won't run at all. So be patient, let the software do its thing. The last step in setting up your S19 is to connect your miner to your miner pool. From the dashboard page, select Settings. Here, copy over the pool addresses, miner name, and password as directed by your mining pool website. After entering this data, hit Save. After saving your pool information, your miner will automatically connect to your pool and start mining. Now, this connection and ramp up process will take a little while, maybe as much as 10 to 15 minutes, so again, be patient, let the software do its thing. You'll know when your miner has started mining Bitcoin by either watching the Antminer dashboard or watching any current meter you might have on the power input to your miner. When your miner is mining, you should see the hash rate on the dashboard, and you should also see the current draw for your miner ramp up substantially. Now, if you are air cooling your miner, this is the end of your miner setup. Your miner will keep finding mining shares and Bitcoin hashes and sending them onto your pool, earning you your Bitcoin payout. However, if you are using immersion cooling, you'll want to keep your miner working like this for about another hour or so to make sure there's nothing wrong. And if everything is still running well after an hour, the miner has passed its checkout and is ready for immersion. But before dunking your miner, there are a number of changes you need to make to the hardware. And most, if not all of these changes, are going to null and void any warranty on your miner. In addition, after we're done, you'll no longer be able to run your miner with air cooling. So realize this is kind of the point of no return for your hardware. Okay, so that's it for part 1 of prepping an S19 miner. In my next video, I'm going to show you the rest of the steps to prep your miners for immersion and start my Home Bitcoin Immersion Mining setup. So with that, bye.